All right, hello. Oh, my camera's a little out, there we go. A little out of focus, but we fixed it. So, welcome to Movement Out of the Box. This is, kind of a kettlebell series, but you are welcome to do this with dumbbells or a medicine ball or any weights or no weight at all. These concepts don't really require any particular weight or modality. These are rather movement concepts. So this is going to take you, we've learned how to get specific adaptations regarding if we want strength or endurance, what kind of inputs we need to put into our body. This one is a little maybe abstract in the beginning to understand, but this is about moving in different planes of movement. So to explain planes of movement, I have a little visual here. It's not the best maybe. And let's see, can you see? There we go. Here's my window. So you got a little email if you're signed up for the emails talking about, and there's a little picture there about the window of the torso. So you see here my torso is in this square window. Pretend I'm on the wall, you can see me through the window. And most exercises that we're doing in the gym that you see people doing, squatting, I'm doing bicep curls, maybe I'm lunging forward or back, tricep press, overhead press, anything in this category, you might notice that I'm staying within this square. And when I'm staying within this square, I'm dominating what's called a sagittal plane of movement. So you don't really have to memorize these names, but let's start to get this concept of the window. Now, why do we want to explore different areas of movement? For example, today, lateral movement, we're exploring the frontal plane. So the frontal plane is moving sideways. And if you notice how my body, my torso, is coming out of this box when I'm moving sideways. I'm occupying a frontal plane, which goes this way. And the sagittal plane goes this way. So if you can imagine two axes, right? Why do we want to train outside of this axis? So daily life, everyday life, as I'm sure you can understand, doesn't occupy this strict forward and back. Something as simple as getting into your car, right? You're usually turning and going to the side. You're doing like a kind of side squat, something like that. If you were putting something into the trunk of your car, or maybe you have a child or you've had a child and picking a kid up is not something always that's going to happen. Like, here, come here so I can bicep curl you and squat you up. So it doesn't, life doesn't happen in a strict sagittal plane of motion. It happens in all planes of motion. So we're going to be going on to explore different ones on different days. Today we're focusing on lateral. Now I talk about this a little bit in the email itself, but essentially there is a law of muscles, of biological structures. I always confuse it. I think it's Davis's law. There's also a Wolff's law. I believe it's Davis's law. Either way, neither here nor there. The point is tissue forms along lines of stress. And a line of stress doesn't necessarily mean stressed out, like in your day-to-day life, things that stress you out. But stress is tension, quite literally. When you're holding, a barbell or a dumbbell, that weight, that load is tension. So if I only do my bicep curls in this strict up and down motion, or if I only lunge or squat in that strict one up and down motion, I'm only developing more tissue, more muscle, more strength along that line of stress, that up-down sagittal line of stress. So it's very important to get these other movements in so we can be better prepared for things beyond just looking good or working out in the gym. Life requires much more than that. And more so, it's more healthy for your joints to be moving in all the directions they're meant to be moving in. We are a many movement abled creature. We're able to move in these directions, so we should train in these directions so that we're more adequately prepared. The places where we tend to get injured are places where we don't have control or are weak because we haven't practiced them before. It's typically a new movement that will cause that acute injury, or otherwise a new load, new stress, a new enormous amount of stress, something like that. But even with time, for example, tissue forming along lines of stress, you can take, for example, how martial artists will practice by punching their hands into buckets of sand or even rice, and that repeated hitting, that stress to the front of their knuckles will create actually thicker, bonier knuckles. Quite literally, their bone tissue forms along that line of stress and becomes stronger, and they can withstand a higher impact to the fist than someone who has not trained that before. So I'm not saying train your fists, right? That's an example, really a specific example of how tissue forms along lines of stress and how you can use it to prepare for your life, the demands of your life. If the demand of your sport is punching somebody or throwing a punch at a bag, whatever, obviously you want to be prepared for that. So that's how you want to prepare. So thinking like an athlete a little bit more, or even better, how I'm teaching you to think like the athlete's coach. So how to be your own coach for you, the athlete. So let's get started with that lateral movement. We're going to start with the basic kind of good place to warm up, which is our lateral lunges. So from standing position, when I step over to the side, I want to make sure that I get my hip, my knee over my ankle and stepping back. And I want to put all my weight into this foot, getting a nice stretch here. That foot should be light, able to lift it up. I'm not putting any load there. So let's just go through 10 on this side. We're just warming up this lateral direction, especially if you're not used to training this direction. If this is your first time training with me, maybe so. I do like to train in many directions, but you want to make sure you're warming up these new directions of movement. And now let's do the other side. 10 over here. And while we're mostly focusing on the movement of the torso today, I'd also like to mention that when you're doing your kind of isolation exercises, say you are really attached to your bicep curls, go ahead and keep doing your bicep curls, but try taking just a step to the side and getting some lateral movement into your routine. It can really change it up for you. Excellent. Now let's try where we're alternating side to side. So from the middle, go ahead, take a step to the side, to the middle, and the other side. 2 lateral lunges. We'll do 20. And if you want to be fancy, add a reach and increase your stretch. And remember, really keep all the weight to one side. Cueing in our breath. Do about 10 more. And last 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, got our kind of inner thighs starting to stretch and warm up. A little bit of inner hamstring starting to stretch and warm up. We're going to take it now to a body weight lateral movement type squat, the Cossack squat. So you'll have a wide stance with your feet pointing straight, kitty girl. And we're going to come down, dropping your hip all the way down. If you can, reach for the ground as low as you're comfortable dropping your butt to the floor. And then we're gonna push up to the center, straighten out those feet again. Down to the other side, you can reach down, touch the floor, drop your butt as low as comfortable. We're gonna do 10, 5 each side. This is deeper than our lateral lunge, but also we're not traveling. Both our feet are staying in place. Hi, Kiki. So my definition for the difference between a squat and a lunge is a lunge is just a traveling squat. Squats are stationary feet. Let's go 5 more. And last 3. And 1. Excellent. Let's just continue to warm up our shoulders a little bit before we start to carry some load now. And we're going to start getting into loading up lateral movements. Let's take some big shoulder circles up to the ears and back. And then reverse that circle back to forward. All right, so grab your weight, whatever weight you're using, dumbbell, kettlebell. We're going to be doing a goblet style first. So this means both hands are holding your weight, and you can do it upside down or bottoms up for my kettlebell peeps. And we're going to do 10 on one side for that lateral lunge, holding it goblet style in both hands. And the goal is we want that weight centered over our foot, just like how we want our hips and knees centered over that foot as well. Inhale as we come down, exhale as we push away. And 4. Keep chest proud and open. Last 5. 4. 3. And 2. And 1. Now, second leg over to the other side. Center that goblet over your foot. Inhale down, exhale up. And last 2. And 1. All right, let's take a quick break for our shoulders. For our next one, we're going to stick with our lateral lunge, but we're going to load it just a little bit differently on a front rack. Now for that front rack, if you have a dumbbell, you can just hold it up at the chest, but if you have a kettlebell, you're going to hold kind of the corner here, slide your hand through the handle, letting your thumb hold that corner for you. And I'm not rolling out showing my wrists, I'm rolling it in, and it's part of my body. And if you have 2 kettlebells, you can do a double loaded. If you're going to do single loaded, you can do either side, but I would definitely recommend, what are you doing in there? I would definitely recommend keeping your load over the leg that you're stepping out on. So for example, I have it loaded on my left side or on my right side. So if I step out with my right leg, that's going to be a little bit stronger than crossing that barrier and having it on the other side. Or you might find it's easier depending on your core strength and other items. So load up front rack, double or single. And we're just going to feel the difference here between doing a goblet and a front rack loaded side lunge or lateral lunge, lunge in the frontal plane. Step it over to the side, center, 2, and 4, center down the front of your foot. Push away with the whole leg. Last 5. And 2 more. And 1. I'm going to switch it to the other side. And step for another 10. Last 5. 4, keeping the core strong. And 1. All right. So let's try now. We've loaded up that lateral lunge a little bit. We're going to try that Cossack squat with a goblet. So I would definitely suggest trying something lighter for your first time trying this. It can be more challenging. If you have something like a TRX, a suspension system at home, you can also hold on to your TRX with one hand and front rack your your Cossack squat to make it a little bit easier. But since we're just working with weights, or perhaps you're doing just body weight today, lucky you, let's go ahead, goblet style, holding in both hands our kettlebell or dumbbell. Feet nice and straight. You're going to take it down low as you can over one foot, up and to the center. Now we're just going to do 10. Exhale as you press. 3, 4, and the legs stay put, the feet stay put, and last 5, 4, 3, and 2, and 1. All right, we're going to take just a quick break and recover, and let's talk a little bit about what makes these so challenging. So maybe you feel like you've mastered the heavy squat before, or you've mastered the heavy lunge, right? Why is this so challenging? This goes back to exactly what we were talking about how if you don't train a specific movement, it's not going to be strong. So you can be a power lifter and lift tons of weight on just your regular barbell back squat, or even your kettlebell goblet squat. But when you attempt a Cossack squat, just the difference in stance there really increases the challenge. And you're just loading your muscles, loading your system in a different way. So when we practice it, we strengthen it. So if you notice any of these particular movements when you take it lateral are more challenging for you, I would definitely see if you can add those in on a regular basis. Now, we're going to do one more round of our Cossack squat. This is definitely more challenging because of the demands of keeping an upright body. So you might find that you feel like you're falling backwards when you're doing a front rack Cossack squat. That is normal. Don't worry about it. And really, it's not that bad. Don't be too scared of falling on your butt every now and then. As long as you're in a safe environment, you have somewhere soft to land, you're not going to fall off a step or something like that, you should be okay. We've talked about this before. This is your laboratory. I want you to know that you can control all the variables of your environment here. So if there's something that makes you uneasy to do, see what you can do about making your environment to change those variables, and know that it's okay to take some risks where you can control those variables, because you might have to do it outside in the real world where we can't. So better to do it here in the lab as a scientist than to do it out there in the real world as a person. So front racking again, let's take it down all the way in that Cossack squat, low as you can go, and you're definitely going to notice that it's going to demand that you sit up a little bit taller than you would if you were loading goblet style. The front rack keeps your torso more upright. It's going to be the more challenging of the Cossack squats. Let's do 4 more. And 3. And 2. And last one. All right. Now I'm going to grab something a little heavier for this next one because we're going to be doing deadlifts. And I'm sure you're familiar with the deadlift. Very standard, but if you imagine our window again, right, it's straight up and down, one straight line. But usually in real life, we don't get to pick something up quite so straight. So for the lateral deadlift, we're going to shift. First, we're going to use a single kettlebell, but we're going to shift slightly to the side to put the kettlebell or the dumbbells on the outside of the foot rather than straight down in the center. So for example, here I am at the top of my deadlift. When I come down, I'm going to land that kettlebell on the outside of my foot, but I'm not going to do it by compromising my deadlift form. So here's my form down in the center, and here it is as I go to the side. So I'm keeping my back straight. I'm still hinging at the hips. Just because I'm going to the side doesn't mean I start to round. And that's why it's so important. So let's do 10, 5 to each side, alternating left and right. And I like to start in the center just so I'm in a good place to begin. And then once I feel like I'm in control of my weight, I start to do left and right. So have your weight in the middle for beginners, and then coming down, once we're at the top, we can choose go ahead, shift to the right, and up center. Make sure you let that weight come down and be dead. And right, center. Think of it just a nice lateral line, that frontal plane, side to side movement. Here's 5. And last 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1. And then I'm going to finish in the center. So maybe you noticed that this deadlift, lateral left-right, you felt something a little different in your hamstrings. And that's exactly what we're talking about, that difference in loading. So this one really makes apparent. You can feel the difference in your regular deadlift and how just rotating the side really emphasizes one over the other. Let's grab now 2 kettlebells of the same side. Now if you just have singles, that's okay. Carry on with your singles for this next set. But this is just how to do a deadlift, lateral deadlift rather, with 2 kettlebells. And the key here is the kettlebells, one will still be in the center, but they're going to shift over one. So there'll always be a foot in between the kettlebells. Again, I'm going to set up in the center with the kettlebells in between my feet. And then once I come to the top, I'm going to go down to the side and see how I got my foot in the middle of the 2 kettlebells. Back up to center, kettlebells at my side, down nice and slow, either side of the foot. We're going to do 10 of these again. And last 4, 3, 2, and 1. And down to center. Okay. So, just a quick review. We have so far lateral lunges, Cossack squats, lateral deadlifts. So our kind of top 3 strength exercises. Now we have a frontal plane version for them, or maybe you already knew how to do these, and now you can categorize them in your exercise library up here as lateral, frontal plane movement. So when you're looking for something to do, you can go, I know. I'll make sure I do lateral lunges to mix in with my regular squats, so I make sure I'm getting multiple directions in my workout. And that's just a really easy way to look at that. So taking a look at your workout that you're planning to do and making sure that it's not all occupying just one plane of motion. So moving on to power. So we have our kettlebell swing. You can do this with a dumbbell, of course, but people know how I feel about that. Just a little bit of an easier tendency to let those dumbbells fly when you're switching. So just make sure that if you're doing a dumbbell for your swings, do it outside, not facing a wall or a mirror or a person or a living thing. That being said, let's grab, I would start perhaps with a medium weight for what you are used to. It will be a little bit different. And for our swing, of course, we have our standard swing here, sagittal. And this is going to require to move laterally that we do a single swing. I'm not going to be able to do my double-handed with this lateral movement. So once you've mastered a single kettlebell swing, you're ready to go laterally. An important thing is that if the kettlebell is in my left hand, I'm going to step right. That way, it's not hitting my leg, and I can use my hips to launch that kettlebell up. When I come to the center, so of course I have one option, I can just go here and up. That doesn't even work. I tried to think that was an option, but I don't think so. I think you have to go side to side. Unless maybe if you switched, you could do a stop. Well, that works. I didn't even think of this before. So you're watching it happen live. Ingenuity. So if you want to do just one side, or you have a heavier bell, I suppose you can do just one hand lateral swing, not a double hand, but without switching, by stepping to the side, swinging, and stopping. Now, just an important note with your swing, never to chase the kettlebell with your chest, always to keep your chest up and use your butt rather than your back. Okay, see the difference in butt and back. The reason being, when we step to the side, keep that chest up, don't fold in your lateral. Let's go ahead now. So we're gonna do side to side. Now that you watch me just brainstorm, we're gonna go ahead and do side to side. That means stepping over to the left with the kettlebell in your right hand, switching in the middle, stepping to the right with the left. So switching in the middle, just like so. Switch and side. And when you're ready, I'll count you in. We'll do a set of 20 in 3, 2, and go. Step 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last 10. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring it down, grab some air, take a rest. Now we're going to keep going with power. And that means cleans. So, catch my breath from my swings. Those always work so good. Love them. So clean, so clean. I won't harp on it too much, but just a little bit about clean form. Clean form is, it looks just like a swing in this manner. But I'm gonna pull that weight up, straight up, and then roll around. I'm not going to let it flip up and over. I'm going to twist it in, not flip it over. Twist it in. So you're rolling it around your wrist. Difficult to see on camera, it happens very fast, but if you're hitting your wrists repeatedly with your clean, it is not the move for you. These can also be done with dumbbells. There's a little less flipping. We're just rolling it up and racking it, pulling it straight up and rack. Now this is a little bit like a combination of our lateral lunge with our swing to make the clean. So we're going to be stepping just to one side first. So from here, I start in my front rack position we started in before. When you step to the side, you let that kettlebell fall down into the swing we were just doing, like so. When I come back is when I pull it back up into that front rack position like we were discussing, pulling straight up, rolling around. So not to get too much into the form since we're just discussing movements today, if you do need more of a breakdown, we do have more of a breakdown in our kettlebell basics course. So let's go ahead and do it, stepping to the side, and we're going to do 10 on each side of this lateral clean. So down to the ground, pull it up for 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10. Go ahead, switch sides, and we're going to do 10 on the other side. Letting it swing and up. This cat. 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and last 2, 1. Now, of course, we have some options. You, of course, can do a from the ground clean, where I step to the side, pick it up as I step up, and clean it to my shoulders, all the way down to the floor. This is going to be different than just doing that hang clean, where I let it hang from my arms instead of letting it go all the way down to the floor, aka a power clean. Now, I want to make it even more fun. Let's practice a double loaded lateral clean. And what this means is I have my double front rack in the center, and now we're going to travel 2 ways. So when I go to one side, I clean, and when I go to the other side, I clean. So I get 2 cleans in, but I load up doubly heavy as well in the middle. So for this one, since it's extra hard, we're just going to do 10, 5 each side. Start with your front rack. I want to hit the cat, and let's go to the side and clean, and second side. 2, 3, 4, and 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Excellent. Bringing those down, and let's go back and review now everything that we've done today. So starting with a big gulp of water, let's grab a medium-sized weight, and we're going to go ahead and flow through everything we've learned today that occupies that frontal plane. And it might not be a new move to you, but it is a new way of categorizing this perhaps for you, if it's not a new move. So I hope it is helpful in some way, even if you're not learning new exercises today. So let's go goblet in the middle, and we're going to do 5 each side lateral lunge. 1, 2, 3, 2 more, 4, and 5. Now Widen your stance, and let's go Cossack for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Step the legs together, lower the kettlebell. Let's go 5 each side of that lateral deadlift. Down to the right and up, down to the left and up, and 2. 3, 4, take your time, and 5. Now let go with one hand, and let's go ahead alternating side to side with that lateral swing. Over, together, over, and we're going to hit 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, and then let's go into clean. Ready, take it down and up. Let's go 3 more. Down and up. 2 more. Last one. Switch sides. Last 4 cleans. And 1, 2, and 4. Well done. Have a big sip of water. And thank you for joining our frontal plane movement today. Let's see if there's anything I didn't mention today. I don't think so. So next week we are going to get into the transverse plane, and then finally ground to standing, which isn't really a technical plane of motion, but you'll see why I included it. So I'll see you this Friday. We have a gradient flow, have 3 different weights. It's okay if you have a dumbbell, or even if you only have 2, you can just use your small weight twice or your medium weight twice, whatever it may be. But we're going to go through basically 3 different levels of flow. If you have something heavy, save it for that last flow, because we're going to be having something fun. I know you think maybe the heavy bells are hard to flow with, but you just need to find the right flow. So all that being said, thank you for joining me today, learning a little bit more about lateral movement, frontal plane movement, why it's important. Check your email. You should have some info about today's class, a little bit more in depth. And then at the end of the series, I'm going to have a download packet if you want to review all the material together. So hope you are well. Hope you enjoyed just this quick little lesson, little 30-minute session, and got a little sweat with me. And try and practice some frontal plane movement this week. See if you can sprinkle it in to an exercise that you would normally just do in a sagittal plane. See if you can change it up this week. Thanks, and I will see you.